Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my kitchen renovation video. Unfortunately, I don't actually have any footage of the actual renovation happening. It is just a before and after. So I filmed some footage before we started renovating our kitchen just to show you how it was before, and then I'm going to talk you through the design of our new kitchen and anything that we would do differently, any products we would buy differently or anything like that, or things that we really love about the kitchen design. So I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you find it useful if you are about to embark on your own kitchen renovation. If there's anything that I haven't covered in this video, then please comment below and I will try and get back to you if you have any questions or if you need any advice or anything. Just let me know. Thank you. So firstly, I'll talk you through our kitchen that we have currently. Technically, there's nothing really majorly wrong with the kitchen, but there are just a few things that just don't work for us in terms of the layout. So the first thing that is quite a big issue for us is the space around the hobs. So as you can see, we have this 3/4 height unit with our oven and a cupboard above, and then on this side we have our sink. So we don't actually have a lot of space around the hobs for preparing food or for dishing up, and it's probably my biggest bugbear with this kitchen. One of the other things about this kitchen that we could have easily fixed if we were okay with the layout is the worktops. So we actually have like a solid worktop just around the sink, and then for the rest of the kitchen we have a laminate worktop. So like I said, if we were happy with the layout of the kitchen, we probably would have just replaced the worktops and put in a new sink tap, etc. But because the layout really isn't working for us, that's why we've decided to really take it another level and fully rip everything out and start again. And then another little slight quirk about this kitchen, which unfortunately we're probably not going to be able to do anything different with, is that we have our fridge in a completely separate area of the kitchen. This is probably just a little bit more annoying than an actual problem, but yeah, we will probably have to just kind of replicate this situation that we have in here. So as you can see, this area over here is where we have our fridge. It's what I then also call our sort of like pantry area. So the cupboards over there mostly contain food, and then we have our fridge and a microwave, and then our hobs here. So the kind of layout of this kitchen is mostly just not working for us in this particular area. And so I will then talk you through the plans of our new kitchen layout. So this is the actual entrance to our kitchen, and I'm now facing where the sink and the hobs are, and then behind us over here we have a little area with some extra units. This doesn't really get utilised properly at the moment. It's kind of a little bit of a dumping ground, so we've kind of focused our energy on this area as well within the redesign to make it more functional for us. And then over in this area over here is our sort of lounge area. So we have two lounges in this house. This is our sort of daytime lounge where we hang out during the day, and then we have more of an evening lounge. And then we also, just around the corner, have a conservatory which we use as our dining room. So the overall layout of the kitchen will pretty much stay the same, particularly in this corner. So we will have some pull-out bins, a cupboard. We'll then have a corner cupboard that utilises that corner space. We'll have our sink, our dishwasher, another corner unit to utilise this space, and then we will have our sort of oven range area here. This was really important for me to create lots of worktop space just close by to our hobs, so that we can use that for prepping food and for serving up meals. We're then actually not going to have our oven underneath our hobs. We're going to have a set of drawers, which is currently what we have as well here. So we have our utility drawers, and then we have our bowls, plates, etc. in there. And we're going to relocate the oven to here. So we're going to have a tall unit with our oven in, and then storage above and below. And then next to it, we're going to have a full height double larder unit as well. So we've got plenty of storage. We're not going to lose out on any of the storage that we've got, but we are going to pretty much eliminate any wall mounted units. The only two wall mounted units that we will actually end up having is one in this corner. So I've got a full range hood that we are designing here. And then in the corner, we're going to have a bifold full height countertop unit. And then we're going to replicate what we have in this corner next to the fridge. So we're going to have the fridge unit looking pretty similar, but next to it, we're going to have a full height bifold door next to it. So for our new kitchen units, we've actually decided to go for solid pine, which we are going to paint and stain. So we decided to go for a solid wood option because of the amount of chemicals that are within the sort of MDF flat pack style furniture kitchen that we mostly see within the UK. This is due to the amount of glue that is utilised to be able to hold what is essentially like sawdust together to create MDF, which is the most commonly used wood in kitchens within the UK. So we decided to stay away from that and to go for a solid pine option. We've decided to go for pine mostly because of budget. So the other alternatives are things like solid oak or ash, and obviously pine is just a much more cost-effective solution. And as we are staining it and painting it, I just didn't feel like it was worth that extra amount of money, and so it was definitely more cost-effective for our budget. In terms of stain finishes, so on the inside of the cupboards, I want them to be stained an oak finish. So this is the actual sort of finish that we're going for. And it just gives it a little bit of warmth, and we'll just finish off the inside of the units. And then on the outside of the units, I sampled two different colours. So one of them is this one, which is a dark oak, and then this one, which is a walnut finish. And I've decided to go for the dark oak finish. I just felt like the walnut it was just a bit too black. I just didn't want it to be harsh. I wanted the walnut to be quite soft, and sorry, the dark wood to be quite soft, so I've decided to go for the dark oak. In terms of the units, we're actually going to have three different finishes. So like I said, we're going to have some units that are stained. These are the units where it's the larder unit, the full height oven unit, and then the two countertop units are going to be stained, and then the rest are going to be painted. An option for this corner area is to go for a very dark grey / black. I wanted to go down this route mostly because I want the fridge to kind of blend in a little bit more, and I just felt like I wanted to create a bit of difference with that area and kind of give it its own kind of identity. The other way that I'm potentially looking into adding to that is to use a different tile in that area, so then it almost becomes like a standalone design within the kitchen. And the rest of the units I'm going for like an off-white. So this colour is Shaded White by Farrow & Ball, and this colour is Drop Cloth. I am not 100% set on those finishes yet. The black and the two beiges are still in sampling, so they might change. I will let you know obviously before we actually go ahead with what we're doing, but this is the kind of plan that we're going for at this stage. And then lastly, well, not quite lastly, there's two other things that we are looking at. One is worktops. So worktops has been a slight headache for me. I think just because being an interior designer, I'm exposed to so many different looks and designs, and I definitely feel like a little bit of pressure to get it right, but also in the back of my mind I'm just thinking I don't want to go for something that's a trend, because I want it to have longevity. I want it to always feel like it's just right for the space. And also in the back of my mind, I suppose as well, we have not made a decision on whether this is our forever home or not. We literally have not made any fixed ideas. So if we do end up selling the house, I don't want to go for something that's a bit of a Marmite product that I love but other people don't. At the same time, I want to push myself and not be playing it safe. So worktops is kind of up in the air at the moment. I'm just getting lots and lots of samples, chatting with my husband about what his preferences are, and I will definitely let you know more on the worktop situation because it is a bit of a minefield. But then lastly is the flooring. So we've actually currently got a Carndine LVT, so it's luxury vinyl tile flooring within pretty much the entirety of our ground floor. And we're going to be ripping that up because I hate it. Mostly because it just shows up every single mark. It's actually like a dark walnut and it shows up every mark that is out there. It's ridiculous, and it's incredibly difficult to clean and keep clean for more than about 5 minutes. So we're going to be ripping all of that out, and we've been incredibly fortunate. It's a very unusual situation for a property of this age. Our house was built in, I think, about 1997. We actually have solid wood flooring underneath the Carndine flooring, so we're going to be ripping that up and staining it a dark walnut, which we've already done in the front living room, so we're just going to be continuing that through all the way through the ground floor of the house. The only area that we don't think has a solid wood underneath is the conservatory, so we're going to rip up what's there and put a solid wood flooring down. We've done this for a multitude of reasons, but mostly because I want the floor finishes to be the same level all the way through the property. I don't want any like ridges or steps. I did speak to a builder who said it would be possible to rip out and sort of lower it so that we can then put a subfloor down and then have a tile or whatever above, and it would still all be the same level. But to be honest, the cost of that was just not worth it to me. I really love wooden flooring, so that just seemed like the best solution all the way around for us. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. We're actually going to do that part ourselves, and then we have a builder who's coming to do the rest of it, an electrician, because we've got some electrical bits. And yeah, so we'll chat you through the flooring as we're doing that. We have that on our to-do list this weekend, so yeah. The last part is the tiles. So again, this has been another little headache for me. So I want to go for something that's quite neutral, again will have longevity, it's like a classic design. So we have been looking at a sort of metro tile, but that has a lot of texture. I don't necessarily want one that's very glossy, so we have a few different options. Some are a bit more natural, we have different sizes, and basically I have no idea what I want. I will put some inspiration images up here because I definitely have a look that I want to try and recreate, but I'm just not sure how I want to do that. And again, like I mentioned before, I am thinking about doing a different tile in this sort of pantry area. The other option is that we have the same tile but we just set it out differently. I had a chat with my husband about that. He's not particularly keen / fussed, so it all really just comes down to me. So yeah, I again will chat you through some options. I'm going to get lots more tile samples and I will keep chatting you through that process, because for the first time in my career, I've worked as an interior designer for over 10 years and I'm really beginning to understand how it must feel for my clients sometimes when they just don't really have like a clear vision, or they have a vision but they're just not sure. I'm very much in that space at the moment, which is an unusual position for me to be in. Usually I'm very decisive and I know what I want and I just go for it. But I think honestly, one of my clients said to me a few years ago that when they had a baby, their decision making just went out the window, and I'm 100% there with that. So I can do it at work, but when it comes to my own house, I'm definitely overthinking every decision, which hopefully some of you will be able to relate to. And as a designer, just so that you know that we do also have those kind of moments that, you know, a lot of people say like, oh, you're a designer, you should know what you want, you should know what you're doing. And it's sometimes we have too many options, that like narrowing it down into something that works for us and our lifestyle and our family can still bring up a lot of things, a lot of questions and a lot of decision making. So yeah. So to start with, our main sort of changes in this space is that we removed the corner element of this sort of kitchen that we had before. So actually it wasn't like a stud wall or anything, it was just a piece of metal, stainless steel splashback, and then they'd put the units chamfered on the corner to, I don't know why they did it that way, it doesn't really seem to make sense to me, but and then they had the oven next to it. I used to find that from a practical sense, there wasn't enough space around the hobs for preparing food and then getting into the pans, and then when it came to finishing off with the meal and serving up, there wasn't a lot of space around the hobs, so I ended up having to carry everything across the kitchen, and yeah, it just wasn't very practical from that respect. So I really wanted to create as much space as I could around the hobs. I then also wanted to create a feature of the extractor hood. I really love the look of the more traditional style of kitchen. That's the kind of style that we've tried to encapsulate with our kitchen renovation. So I wanted to go for something that was quite a traditional style. I toyed around with the design of the extractor hood for quite some time. I didn't want to rush into making any decisions, which is one of the reasons why it took us so long to actually do the renovation. But in the end, I decided to go for this particular design for a couple of reasons. One, because I liked the look of it, and two, because I didn't want to eat up too much of the worktop space, but the depth had to be the depth because it has an extractor fan in there. So we have an extractor up here, and one of the other designs, I'll put a picture up now, one of the other designs that I very nearly went with would have meant that these would have come all the way down and we would have essentially lost the worktop space here. So I made the decision to have it so that it gently steps back and gives us a little bit more space around the hobs. I think if we had like a massive kitchen and this whole extractor hood could have been bigger, I would still love to do a design like that. I think it looks stunning, but from a practical side of things for us in our particular kitchen, I needed the extra worktop space, so it made more sense to do it this way. And we are very happy with how it's turned out. The other change that we made along this run of units is that we swapped over the dishwasher and the sink. So we used to have the sink here and the dishwasher to the left, but I wanted to move the sink along and have the dishwasher to the right. so that it gave us a bit more space near the hobs for preparation and for serving up. And I think even though it wasn't a tricky thing to do, but it just meant that we ended up having to, like the builder ended up having to spend an extra few hours moving all the pipe work and things. So yeah, it took extra time, but I think it was worth doing in the long run, especially for preparing food, etc. And then the last design feature in this area is this countertop cupboard. So excuse the mess because it's everything needs organising still. But we have a plug socket in here in the corner, and eventually I would like to get a coffee machine in here, but for now it's just a good place for like the smoothie maker, etc. And it just keeps all the things that we need for making drinks, etc. hidden out of the way, without having that like disjointed cupboard on like more of a wall cupboard, traditional wall cupboard look. I absolutely love this cupboard. We have two of them actually. We kind of had one before next to the fridge and we've just recreated that, and then we created another one here. Like I said, I want to have a coffee machine in there, and we have the smoothie maker, etc. We have all of our tea, coffee, sugar, etc. in there. I'm not a fan of clutter in kitchens. I don't like having the tea, coffee, sugar canisters out on the work surface, and I just like having that ability to just put everything away in a cupboard and shut the door and not have to see it. But yeah, I absolutely love that design feature, and I would definitely do that again in another renovation project if we were to ever do another kitchen. So then this is the little nook area that I was talking about before. So we have our utility room just through there, and our garage is just through there. This space was already here, we didn't really create it. So having the fridge in this corner isn't ideal for the best flow of the kitchen. However, there wasn't really anywhere else that we could put the fridge. And if I had put it somewhere, I would want it to have been fully integrated, but we'd already invested in this fridge, so it just made sense for us to keep this here where it was before. We did also have units around here before, so as I mentioned, we have another one of the countertop units which we now keep the toaster in, and we already had some units above the kitchen, above the fridge, sorry, so we recreated all of that and we boxed it in around the top, just to give it a clean look. And then we did actually have a wall cupboard here, but because we've created so much storage elsewhere in the kitchen, I wanted to create an area that we could have to display nice things, so I put some shelves there instead. And again, underneath, before we had a cupboard and a set of drawers, and so we just recreated that because in terms of like the practical side of things, with having that additional set of drawers for tea towels, etc., it was, yeah, preferential that we kept that in, so that's really worked well for us. In terms of the overall colour scheme, I tried to go fairly neutral, just because I wanted the kitchen to feel very light, very airy. I didn't want to pick a colour that ultimately I would change my mind on. I feel like a neutral, you can sort of jazz it up with colour if you want, or you can go for something more simple and with your accessories, etc. So it just made sense to go for a very neutral kitchen. So we have the dark oak wood stain on some of the units, and then we have little green slacked lime for the base units. But in this area of the kitchen, because it's separate, I wanted to give this part of the kitchen its own identity. So I decided to go for black on the units. I also decided to do that because I wanted the fridge to blend in. I didn't want it to stand out or anything, and I know you can get sort of bespoke coloured fridges or like neutral coloured fridges, but I just felt like for me, for the cost, etc., it made more sense to paint the units black, and I really love the overall look of the black units for the kitchen anyway, so I felt like this was my area to like push it a bit more. But with the tiles, we were back and forth with the tiles for so long, and I decided that I wanted to go for a patterned tile. We did look at some more intricate details on the designs. We visited Porto in Portugal about 18 months ago, and we were quite influenced on the colours that we saw there, but I decided to go for something that was a little bit more of a, I wouldn't say a geometric pattern, they're like little flowers. So they have like this cute little design, but it's not too in your face, like some of the tiles in Portugal are with their like, is it toile design, etc. So we loved the overall look, and we were very influenced by that when we created this area. But yeah, we tried to give it a bit more of a sort of neutral, modern-ish twist without it being too geometric. So they're the main features of our layout. The other things that we decided to do that were a slight investment, I would say, I guess it depends on what your overall budget is, but we decided to go for a boiling hot tap. We went with the brand Quettle because we felt like they were the best in terms of value for money. They had really good feedback in terms of the product itself, also customer service. We haven't personally spoken to anyone from the customer service department, so we can't directly comment on that, but there were very good reviews about it, and I may come back on that one because we do actually need to speak to them about something. But our experience with it is that it's been absolutely amazing. My only comment is, and it was our oversight really, is that when the water comes out on the boiling tap aspect, it's like a bit spluttery, and we found a video on their website that just talked through why this is, and it is essentially because the water comes out at boiling temperature, so it comes out at 100 degrees, which you want because you get a better sort of temperature from it, but it does just mean that it can be a bit spluttery at times. And I have had, when I was filling up a pan of water, I have had it like hit me in the eye where it's sort of splashed back. So it's still a very good product. I would still buy it again. It's just something to be mindful of if you are in the market for a hot tap. We did look at some other brands. Obviously there is some really high-end brands that you can go for, and there's some very cheap products. The cheap products we found just had very mixed reviews. So generally speaking, if somebody hadn't had an issue with it, they gave it a good review. If they had had an issue with it, there was a bad review, but it was generally around the customer service aspect of it. So we decided that it was worth spending the extra money. You can spend more, you can get various tank sizes, so the capacity of water that it is holding at any time for the boiling aspect. As we went for the smallest tank, I think it fills 4 mugs. And we kind of went with the mentality of, we generally speaking don't have more than 2 guests at a time. And if we do, we've kept our old kettle and we can just whip that out and boil the kettle if we need to. But we've had a couple of occasions where we've had more than 2 people as guests, and we've not had any issues with that. So for us personally, it wasn't worth spending the extra money on a bigger tank. But if that was something that you were worried about, you can invest in bigger tanks. The thing we did, actually, we could have spent less on the tap. We just decided to pay an additional, I think it was £250 on having it in the sort of brass finish rather than, I think their standard is polished chrome. And I can't remember if the different finishes have different price points or whether anything that isn't polished chrome is £250 more. But yeah, that was worth it for us because we have invested in changing all of the plug sockets in here, all the light fixtures are brass, and all of our hardware on our cupboards is brass, so it just made sense that the tap was as well. But yeah, it's definitely something that you could have cheaper if you wanted to, or equally it could cost you more if you were worried about the tank size. The other thing that we invested in is a pull-out bin. Again, there are quite a few different products on the market. We personally decided to go for the one that we did, mostly because of the cupboard size, and we just absolutely love it. It's like one of the best things. It was a bit on the pricey side, it was quite a lot more than I thought it was going to be. I think the bin itself cost nearly £300, which when you think about spending £300 on a bin is quite ridiculous. However, both me and my husband regularly talk about how it was like the best £300 that we spent on this kitchen. I have it so that it's near where we prep food, so we can just quickly pull the bin out and wipe the chopping board, anything that's on the chopping board, into the bin. Before we did the renovation, our bins were in the utility room, which was just really impractical. And yeah, I was initially a bit concerned about the litre size of the bin because they're on the smaller side. But I think in reality it's actually a really good thing that it just means we have to empty the bin more frequently, so it means that we don't get any smells, not that we generally do anyway. I would say that we empty our waste bin probably once a week, and I've never smelled anything from them when the cupboard's shut, etc. So yeah, it's definitely a bit of an investment, but an investment I would make over and over again because it was just one of the most practical solutions that we made in this kitchen. And then in terms of our double oven and our hobs, we decided to use NEFF, pretty much just because in terms of price point, I think we'd budgeted slightly less. So we did have to up the budget a little bit, maybe by about £100 or something. But the overall look and finish of the product was just something that we liked. We did go and have a look around and shop around a little bit, and it just became the thing that, well, that was the brand that stood out to us. The knobs actually push in on the oven, and then they are the matching knobs on the hob. We did end up actually buying them from 2 separate websites, but yeah, it was a really good decision. We really like the finish of them. We went with a glass top On the Hobs you can get glass or you can get stainless steel. We went for glass just because it cleans easier and we just liked the finish of it better. But yeah, I will leave a link for them below, but yeah, they were both very good. Middle of the road kind of price point. They weren't ridiculous. I think the oven was about £700 and I think the Hobs were about 250, 300. So yeah, £1,000 on all of that I think was pretty good, and we really like how they've come out so far. The last major decision for us was the worktops, and we in the end went for a quartz worktop, and I spent I don't know how long going over it and trying to decide what colour I wanted, what design I wanted, whether I wanted to go for real marble or quartz or Corian or whatever. Essentially, in the end, it kind of came down to cost. But I am really happy with the finish of the quartz. I had initially budgeted to have marble. It was one of the things I was really keen on having, but when it came to it, there were two things that kind of played in my mind about that decision. The main thing being the cost, because it is expensive, but the other aspect of it is that because it's a natural product, it is slightly porous and marble will stain, and you can get it sort of, it's almost like sanding it down and refinishing it, and you can do that, but it was a little bit too frequent for my liking. So most people that I've seen who have marble worktops, generally speaking, have it done every 1 to 2 years. Now, if this was something that needed doing less frequently, like every 5 years, I probably would have considered it more. But I think it was just like from the maintenance perspective that was really off-putting. I'm not opposed to using marble full stop. I definitely would consider using it again in the future. But it just didn't feel right for this kitchen, for everything that we wanted out of this kitchen, etc. So we then did shop around a bit for the quartz, and we found a really good company on the outskirts of Leeds who came and templated and everything, and cost-wise they were really good as well. So we ended up actually getting the worktop in our utility room done at the same time. So we haven't actually done anything else to that room. It's still just magnolia painted walls. But yeah, we have a new worktop in there ready for when we want to do a bigger renovation in there. So one of the things that I know you will all be wondering is budget. So our budget for the kitchen was actually about £30,000, which can sound like a healthy budget to some and not a lot to others. I guess it just depends on where you're at in terms of your budget, etc. But it was a healthy enough budget for us to do the things that we wanted to do, but it did mean that we had to be quite mindful of where we spent the money and products that we invested in. We did actually come in slightly under budget. I can't remember exactly what the figure was, but I think it was somewhere around 28,000, which we were quite happy with. The main reason why we came in under budget was, firstly, I stained and painted all of the cabinets myself, which it did save us money, but it definitely didn't save us on time. It was extremely time consuming, but yeah, we're happy with the finish, so it was worth doing. We did kind of do that thinking, because our kitchen units are actually solid pine units, so it's not like a vinyl wrap or anything like that, we can always sand them back and repaint them or restain them at a later date if we wanted to. So we decided it was worth trying to paint it ourselves, and then if we didn't like the finish, we could in a year's time pay somebody to come and redo it for us. But I don't think we're going to do that. I think we're quite happy with the finish, so yeah, we will stick with what we've got. So the other place that we saved money was our flooring. The flooring in our house for this age of property is quite unusual, I think. So essentially this property was built in the late 90s, and by that point, generally speaking, the flooring in properties is either concrete on the ground floor, or if the property is slightly raised, so we have like airflow underneath our floorboards, they will often just use a form of like chipboard, MDF, that kind of thing, for the flooring, and either cover it with LVT or carpet, etc. So we actually have pine floorboards in the entirety of this house, which I absolutely love because I'm not a fan of LVT flooring. I'm also not a fan of carpets for downstairs. I grew up in a Victorian property where my mum had stripped out all the carpet. We had wooden floors with rugs. That's just what I'm used to, and I absolutely love that, for many different reasons, but the practicality side of it is one. So yeah, we ripped up the carpet in our front living room pretty soon after we moved in and stained it. And then the rest of the ground floor of the house used to have a LVT, which took it all the way through into the conservatory. The conservatory was the only part of the house that I wasn't sure whether it would have the pine floorboards. I checked underneath the old kitchen units and could see that there was proper floorboards underneath there, so I knew that from that perspective it was going to be easier to rip up all the vinyl and stain the current floorboards that we have. I also wanted to do this for like levelling reasons between the living room, the front living room, and the kitchen, or the hallway. So we just have one continuous floor that runs all the way through the house. When we pulled up the old vinyl, so that was an area that we saved money, we actually pulled up all of the old vinyl ourselves. When we did that, we did discover that they'd used chipboard in the conservatory. So our builder went out and got all the right floorboards for us, and he laid those, and he did a really amazing job of blending the two. So he took up some floorboards that technically didn't need to come up, but he took them up to make sure that there wasn't so much of a stark line between where the old floorboards finished and the new floorboards started. So now that it's all stained, etc., if you didn't know that they were new floorboards and the other ones were old, I don't think you would notice. I think the only really noticeable aspect of it is that in the old floorboards there's still a few, like, I suppose, like dinks and dents and stuff where it's been caught over the years, but that's part of what I love about it. I love that it has a little bit more character, etc. But again, we decided to stain the floor ourselves to save money. Again, with the mentality that if we didn't like it, we could always pay somebody in a couple of years' time to come and stain it, or like sand it back and stain it for us. I think we would do that, but mostly just because it's not actually wearing very well, particularly where our dining table is. I should have invested in getting some felt pads for the legs on our dining chairs and the high chair, because yeah, where we've been sat and moved the chairs around and things, it has started to take the stain off. And I think just because of the scale of it now, having our second baby, so any sort of renovation projects that we do going forward, we have to consider where we would go. We ended up having to get a hotel when we did this floor. So I think we stayed in a hotel for 2 nights. And I basically just sanded all the floorboards, stained them in one night, and then the following day came back and stained them again. They then did get very mucky because I did all of that before the actual kitchen was renovated. So then when the kitchen was renovated, they got really mucky and I had to do a 3rd coat, but I was able to stagger that much easier and we stayed at home for that part of things. But yeah, I think if we were to embark on that kind of project again, or the next time we get the flooring done, will probably be when we do the front living room, which who knows when that's going to be. So yeah, it's not like an immediate thing to do, but I do think we would definitely pay somebody to do that for us next time, just so that we can get a slightly better finish and more, just so that it's not all on me again. Because it was very hard work, and I was not a fan of the floor sander, let's put it that way. But yeah, that's how we ended up saving a little bit of money on our budget, and that's how we got to the budget that we came to. But yeah, overall we are really happy with the kitchen. We love basically every decision that we've made, so yeah, that's really great that we are happy with it. And there isn't really anything that I would do differently in terms of this specific kitchen. There are things that in the future I would either consider doing again, like the countertop cupboards. There are things that I potentially would do differently if the layout of the overall room was different. But otherwise, actually, we're really happy with it. So yeah, like I said before, if you have any specific questions on the kitchen, or if there's anything in terms of the products that I've discussed that you want to know more about, or anything like that, then please comment below and I will get back to you about that. But yeah, I hope this video was useful and has given you some ideas on your own kitchen, if that's something that you're embarking on, or it's given you some inspiration. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to be the first one to see new videos when they are uploaded. Thank you.